Hi, this is Sarah Gross with GraphicsCrusher.com, and in this tutorial we're going to be talking about how to edit a Minisite Crusher product. So if you've come across any of the Minisite Crusher templates, then this is the training for you. So in this video we will edit a Minisite template called Heaven and Hell, and I've made a copy of the folder here so I don't mess up any live product. And as you go into a Minisite Crusher template, you will see a couple of different files and subfolders. You'll usually see something that's called PSD files, and this is where you would make any changes graphically to images within the Minisite. You will also have a folder called HTML, which houses the actual HTML pages, and you will have a subfolder with all of the web-ready images. Now you can't change a web-ready image directly. Generally what you're going to do, again, if you need graphical changes, is go into the layered PSD file, and we'll show you how to do that in a second. Let's first talk about how to do some basic HTML changes. In this particular example, there's actually 3 variations of the sales page, with just slight adjustments of having more graphics than all HTML. So this one has the main header as a image, and this one has the main header, subhead, and the first, I think, headline within the sales page as a graphic. So there's a little bit more graphic work to do here. Let's just do the in-between version, and that will give us a good basis to show you how to change HTML and also do some adjustments to the image in the template. So this is how it looks in Dreamweaver. Now you can use any HTML editor to make these basic changes. So if you don't have Dreamweaver and you want to use a free program like Composer or NVU, perfectly fine. The same principles will apply. Your interface will just look slightly different. All right, in this template we have an image for the header, and then a lot of the other text that you see is actually HTML text, and we can edit it right within our HTML editor interface. So we'll go through and talk about how to edit the HTML portion of this document, and then circle back and talk about how to replace these image and replace this image and do some basic Photoshop editing of that and import that in here in a second. All right, as far as making changes to the HTML text portion of this document, it's very easy. It's like you have a Microsoft Word document and you just simply highlight the text, and then you can start typing in whatever you want here. Same thing goes for anything that you can highlight and click on and make changes. So fairly easy there. This, like formatting things like this, you would just need to go in and highlight that and replace this text, and you can see it's still, even though that looks different, it is still HTML and text that you can edit and replace with whatever you need. Now these things here, this is actually a image placeholder for a video, and we could go through and replace this with some video embed code, and we'll show you how to do that here in a second. And let's see, this is an image that we need to replace. So what we would need to do is get the thumbnails of images from like a headshot of a testimonial that we want to put in there. And then we are going to put the image name right in between these little quotation marks. So if we click on that, it's highlighting where this HTML coding is referencing this little image here, this little placeholder image. And so we just need to upload within our image subfolder, which is here. We would need to upload something that says, headshot 1. And what it would look like is, if we go back up here to our header, so you can see it's image source equals images/header.png. Okay, and so that's saying that this header document is within our image subfolder, and it's called header.png. So if we click on that in preview, you can see that's exactly what's being pulled into our HTML document here and what's being displayed live. So we would need to do something very similar to insert new images here. We would have a images/headshot2.png and make sure that the headshot2 is exactly what we want to have here, and so forth. And we would need to also make sure it is loaded within this exact subfolder that we have the rest of our images in. And that's how you would make changes. The other way I can do that is in Dreamweaver. I can click on this and then navigate down here to which of the images I want to replace there. And so I'm going to undo that. Before we go and talk about how to do some Photoshop edits, the other thing that you're going to need to do, as opposed to changing out any text and changing out any images like the header, is also link your payment button. And if you click on it, it will highlight where the source code is for that image, like everything else. And you can see it's down here. In Dreamweaver, I can put a link right in here and it will link it. And in other things, you will see this little ahref, and this is the HTML code for linking an image, and you would just insert your actual URL for your payment link. So if you're selling something on, a ClickBank or something like that, or through PayPal, you would have your PayPal payment link here. I'm just making this up. So you would need to copy that directly from whatever service you're using to collect payment. Now let's go up here and talk about how to do the Photoshop editing and replacement of this image. So what we need to do is this, just to clarify, references a web-ready file. So we can tell it's web-ready, it's a PNG. That means we can't go in and edit the layers in a PNG. We have to go and get the PSD file, and this is where we can make graphical changes. When you open up the PS document in something like Photoshop, it's going to look like this, very similar to what you see in the preview, except you now have the ability to modify the actual layers, which is the beauty of Photoshop or a Photoshop layer document, is that you can go in and edit the individual layers or elements within the document, as opposed to like a flat web-ready image file such as a PNG or JPEG. You can't really edit those like you can a PSD document. So what we need to do is edit this header here and replace the header image in our HTML document right here. So remember, this is the image that we want to change. We're now looking at the Photoshop layered file, which has all of the images within our Minisite available. We only want to change out the header, for example. So how would we do that? Well, we can go in here and use the little text editing tool. So we click on the T and we highlight the text that we want to change, and then we replace it with our new text. And we would go down here and do the same thing for our subhead. We push OK to release and accept our change. Make sure T is selected. Highlight our next subhead here. Push OK. And now we can see that this is actually a little too close. So what we need to do is use our Move tool, select the asterisk, and move it out a bit. And then we push OK, so it's released, and we can move on to the next one. Now, you can use the Move tool and keep your left mouse button held down and over the item that you want to move, and then release it when you have the location. Or you can use your arrow keys to do slight nudging, which is very handy when you just want to move it a little bit. So that looks pretty good. That would be good enough for our purposes in reformatting the header. I'll go through just a few other things that you can do before I show you how to save and replace just the header portion of this PSD document. You can change out the colors of elements by selecting that item in question, double-clicking to the right of the layer name, which this isn't a very good example because that's actually an asterisk symbol. So let's go down here and do, let's modify the Add to Cart button. If we wanted to make this look slightly different, we could go in here and click on the color thumbnail and adjust the color directly that way. Or we could double click to the right of the layer name and it's going to bring up all of the layer style elements that we can change out. Let's go ahead and change out the gradient overlay for this example. So we can click on the gradient overlay and we make sure this is highlighted, and now we have all the adjustments that we can make to that gradient. We can increase the opacity so it is very transparent, or we can make it less transparent and more obvious. We can go in and change out the color of the transparency by double clicking on this slider right here, the gradient slider, and pick whichever gradient that we want to apply and make adjustments that way. Remember, this is a very opaque, transparent layer that we're putting on here, so our adjustments are very slight. We'll go ahead and cancel that out. We don't want to make those changes. We can change out the color of this header up here by doing the same thing. We can go in and select a new color directly. We can double click to the right of the layer name and adjust the type of gradient that we're applying. Put it purple. That does not look good, but that's an example. So we'll undo and go back to our brown. So that covers how you would change out the major elements there. Now let's talk about how to save the portions that you want to replace in your actual HTML mini site. So what we need to do is go up here to File and do Save for Web and Devices. And in this instance, the image that we're replacing is a PNG, so we will keep it as a PNG. We then need to make sure this tab option up here, Original, is selected. And then we click on the slice that we want to save. So we want just this header portion saved. So we click on that, and you could tell that the highlighting is very subtle, but this is highlighted. You have this orange border present, and it looks slightly different. Can you see how that's a little clearer when you select that other one? So this header slice is selected. We push Save. And now the other thing that we need to make sure is selected is this option down here for slices. Do we want all slices, all user slices, or selected slices? For our purpose, we want selected slices. And then we make sure we're underneath the right image folder, and we will then name this as header sample and push Save. And there we go. So now we go into our subfolder, and you can see we have this header sample that's selected, and we're going to drag that in and make sure it's into our main image folder that our HTML document is referencing. So now we want to change this out. So I would, in this case, I just double clicked and it's bringing up the option for me to change that out, and boom, it has changed it. The other thing that you can do if you don't have that same behavior in your HTML editor where you double click and it's bringing up the option to change out that image is you can go into the HTML source code and simply make sure this name right here matches exactly the file that you want to reference. So if we wanted to change this back to the original header, in this example, I would just delete that and put it back to the original name, push refresh, and there you go. It's back to that referencing the original header document, or header image, I should say. And the last thing that you want to be able to do is switch out this image placeholder for the video with your video embed code. So that would depend upon which video hosting site that you're using. And if you don't know how to do that, the best way to get that accomplished is just to go someplace like Fiverr or freelance.com or elance.com and hire somebody to help you get that embed code loaded in if that is seeming too complicated for you. But if you do feel like you have the technical capability, what you're doing is replacing this image placeholder HTML code with your embed code for the video. And that wraps up how you would go about and make some basic changes to a mini site crusher template. Hopefully this helps, and I look forward to seeing you in another video soon. Thanks for purchasing, and good luck.